A black cleaner came in to clean, and came face to face with a crying baby. When Ricasso saw his son calm down, he changed, but not in the way you think. Where's my Rolex? Artur Guzmo's voice boomed across the rooftop like thunder. His furious eyes swept every corner of the luxurious 300 square meters room until they landed on Beatriz Almeida, who was silently organizing the cleaning products. The 32-year-old woman stopped what she was doing and looked at the businessman. I don't know about any clock, Mr. Artur. Of course you. No. Arthur advanced on her, his face red with anger. You were the only person who came into my closet. Today, a 50,000 submariner doesn't just disappear. Out of nowhere, Beatrice stood her ground, her hands clenching the cleaning cloth, working for a total zeal cleaning for 5 years had taught her how to deal with difficult customers. But something in Arthur's tone today was different, crueler, more personal. Can I check my bag if it would make you feel better? She offered, calmly, although inside she felt that pang of indignation that always came at these times. Oh, you can be. Sure, I'll check. Arthur took the cell phone, and the police will take a look. 2. People like you always think they can get away with hard-working people like me. It was at that moment that a desperate cry echoed through the apartment. Miguel Artur, S 6-month-old baby, was in the crib in the next room, crying with an intensity that made Beatriz frown. It wasn't a normal cry of hunger or sleep. It was something deeper, more distressed. His son is crying, she observed. Artur didn't even look in the direction of the room. The nanny takes care of that. Now, open that bag. But the crying only got louder, and Beatrice couldn't ignore it. Against all rules of cleaning protocol, she walked to the baby's room. What she saw shocked her. Miguel was alone. The diaper was dirty for hours. The little face was red from crying so much, and there was no sign of the nanny. Hi, little one. Beatrice, she whispered, approaching carefully. Her maternal instinct, developed by taking care of her nephews, spoke louder. What's going on here? She quickly checked if Miguel was okay, changed his diaper, and picked him up. In seconds, the baby stopped crying completely, snuggling into her arms, as if he had finally found the comfort he was looking for. What the hell are you doing? Artur appeared at the door, still holding his cell phone. Let go of my son. Now, Beatrice carefully handed Miguel over, but the moment Artur picked him up, the baby started crying intensely again. Artur tried to rock him, to talk to him, but nothing worked. Miguel seemed inconsolable in his own father's arms. I don't understand, Arthur murmured, clearly frustrated. He stopped crying with you in seconds. Baby, you feel tension, Beatrice explained. Simply, when adults are nervous or aggressive, they notice. Arthur looked at her with a mixture of surprise and irritation. You're insinuating that I'm a bad father. I'm only explaining because your son has calmed down with me. For a brief moment, something changed in Arthur's gaze. A spark of curiosity, perhaps even respect, but it lasted only seconds before the arrogance returned. What a convenient coincidence, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. The same person who steals my watch also has a magic touch with babies. What a well-told story. Beatrice had taken a deep breath for years. She swallowed prejudiced comments, suspicious looks and veiled accusations, but this time something was different. This time, she wasn't going to back down. Mr. Arthur, she said, her voice calm but firm, let me make one thing very clear. I didn't take your watch, and if you are determined to accuse me without proof, I suggest you call the police. I'm sure they'll be very interested in investigating everything. Her tone made Arthur hesitate for a moment. There was something in Beatrice's confidence in the way she held his gaze that made him slightly uncomfortable, as if she knew something he didn't. That's right, Beatrice continued, organizing her materials. A complete investigation. Security cameras, records, history, everything. Arthur watched as she worked, with precise, calculated movements, like someone who had absolutely nothing to hide, worse, like someone who had perhaps been waiting for this moment. What Arthur Guzmo couldn't imagine was that this false accusation had just awakened something in Beatrice that had been dormant for years. And when you underestimate someone who has been through much worse things, you're not just making a mistake, you're signing your own defeat. If the story of injustice and determination got to you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what happens next will show you that sometimes the most underestimated person in the room is exactly the one you should fear. Beatrice's unshakable confidence destabilized Arthur for only a few seconds. Soon his natural arrogance took over, and he completely misinterpreted her calm. Investigation complete. Arthur laughed, cruelly. Perfect. The more evidence, the better. He typed frantically on his cell phone. I'm sending a message to the entire Zello Total Cleaning team. I want them to know exactly what kind of employee you have. Beatrice continued organizing her materials, but her jaw stiffened slightly. She knew this pattern all too well. In 5 years of cleaning elite homes, she had witnessed dozens of similar situations, missing objects that magically reappeared after the domestic employee had been publicly humiliated. By the way, Arthur continued, clearly encouraged by his own venom, I'm going to post this on my social media too. I need to warn other employers about people like you. Something changed in the air when Arthur uttered those last words. Beatrice stopped moving completely, her eyes meeting his with an intensity that made the businessman take an involuntary step back. People like me, she repeated slowly. How interesting. And what kind of person am I, Mr. Arthur? Arthur hesitated, realizing he had stepped on dangerous ground, but his ego would not allow him to back down. People who take advantage of other people's trust, who think they can enter families' homes and steal. Beatrice finished for him. Was that what you were trying to say? Arthur's cell phone vibrated with a message from his lawyer. Meeting canceled. Urgent family matter. Arthur ignored it, too focused on his personal crusade to take note of the first sign that his day was about to fall apart. Do you know what's interesting, Mr. Arthur? Beatrice closed her briefcase with precise movements. In 5 years working for families like yours, this is the first time someone has accused me of theft. First time I got caught? Arthur retorted dismissively. Or the first time someone had lost something and automatically blamed the only black person in the room. The words came out with an icy calm that made Arthur swallow hard. Arthur's cell phone vibrated again. Then, once again, he ignored it, determined to maintain control of a situation that was clearly slipping through his fingers. Listen here. Arthur approached her, trying to intimidate her with his physical presence. I've known people like you forever. You come with this dignified attitude, but deep down, what? Beatrice turned completely to him, and for the first time, Arthur noticed something in her eyes that made him question if he had chosen the wrong person to humiliate. Miguel began to cry again from the bedroom, but this time, neither of them moved. The tension in the apartment had become almost palpable. I'll tell you something about people like me, Beatrice said, picking up her bag. We grow up learning that the truth always comes out. She paused. Always. And when she appears, those who lie pay a high price. Arthur laughed forcefully. Are you threatening me? I'm just warning you how the real world works. Beatrice walked toward the door. Oh, and Mr. Arthur, I suggest you check your pockets and maybe your car. Men like you have a habit of blaming others for their own mistakes. Arthur's phone exploded in a flood of notifications. This time, he looked. 12 unread messages, 3 missed calls, all from his office. Where do you think you're going? He called after Beatrice. The police are on their way. Great, she replied, standing in the doorway. I love the police, especially when they see the building security cameras. Arthur frowned. What cameras? The cameras that show everything that happens in the hallways, elevators, and parking lot of this building. The same ones that will show that I got here at 9 a.m. and haven't left one since. Beatrice smiled for first time, but mostly the ones that will show where you really lost your watch. That was it. Arthur began to sweat. Not only because of what Beatrice said, but because of how she said it, like someone who already knew exactly what those cameras would reveal. His phone rang. The name on the screen made his blood run cold. Urgent private detective. Excuse me, Beatrice said politely. I need to find my next cleaning job. But don't worry, Mr. Arthur. I'm sure we'll clear all this up today. As she disappeared down the hall, Arthur finally answered the phone with shaking hands. Mr. Guzmo. The detective's voice was tense. We need to talk right now. It's about your wife. Arthur felt the world spin. My wife. She's not even in town. That's exactly what we need to talk about. Each new humiliation only fed something inside Beatrice that her oppressors couldn't see. A silent strength being strengthened by the very injustice they were trying to impose on her. What Arthur Guzmo didn't know was that each act of contempt was writing his own sentence of defeat, while the woman he was trying to destroy carried secrets that would transform his perfect life in ashes. The private detective's call completely changed Arthur's tone of voice. What do you mean? It's about my wife. Letitia is in Balneario, Camboriú, visiting her mother. Mr. Guzmo, I need you to sit down. Your wife is not in Balneario, Camboriú. She has been in Punta del Este for 3 weeks with another man. Arthur's world fell apart in seconds. This is impossible. She calls me every day. The calls are made from her cell phone, but through apps that mask the location. I have photos, hotel records, and other evidence. While Arthur was processing his wife's betrayal, Beatrice was in the building's parking lot, making a call to her sister, Sophia. I need you to do me a favor. Remember that private security course I took before coming to Brazil? Of course. You were the best student in the class. Why? I need you to contact our instructor, Inspector Antonio Ferreira. Tell him that Beatrice Almeida needs a small professional favor. Sophia hesitated. Sister, are you in trouble? Not yet. Beatrice smiled, watching the building security cameras. But someone will be soon. What no one knew about Beatrice was that before moving to Brazil, she had worked for 5 years as a private investigator in Jamaica. She wasn't just a cleaner. She was a woman with a degree in criminology who had chosen cleaning jobs to fund her postgraduate degree in forensic psychology. 30 minutes later, Inspector Ferreira called back. Beatrice Almeida, my best former student, what can I do for you? I need legal access to the security footage of a building and perhaps a little investigation into a man named Artur Guzmo. Leave it to me. When you need it by 2 hours would be perfect. Meanwhile, Arthur was trying to deal simultaneously with the revelation about his wife and with the police who had finally arrived to investigate the theft of the watch. The two agents, Barros and Nunez, listened to his version of events with increasingly skeptical expressions. So you're saying that a cleaner stole your watch, but you're not sure when or how? Agent Barros was writing it down in his notebook. Block. She was the only person who went into my closet today. And where exactly did you last see the clock? Arthur hesitated. The truth is he didn't remember. With all the chaos of the last few days, meetings, trips, problems with babysitters, his routine was completely messed up. I always leave it on the nightstand. Officer, Nunez raised an eyebrow. Always? Are you absolutely sure about that? At that exact moment, Arthur's phone rang. Again, it was his family lawyer. Arthur, I just got a very strange call. Someone is asking questions about you at the office. Questions about your professional conduct, your employment history. Are you under investigation for something? Arthur's stomach turned. What kind of questions? About how you treat employees. Have there been any reports of discrimination? If the call was dropped, Arthur tried to call back, but went straight to voicemail. The police were continuing their investigation when Officer Barros received a message. Mr. Guzmo, we just got an interesting report. The building security cameras show the employee arriving at 9 a.m. and still hasn't left. They also show you leaving last night at 11:45 p.m. and returning today at 8:15 a.m. And what's the problem? The problem, continued Agent Nunez, is that the same cameras show you dropping something in the parking lot last night when you got out of your car, something that shone in the light. Artur's face paled. That doesn't prove anything. In fact, it does. The building security team found this an hour ago. Agent Barros showed him a plastic bag containing a Rolex watch. It was under your car, Mr. Guzmo. The humiliation was complete. Arthur had accused an innocent woman of theft when he himself had carelessly lost his watch, but the worst was yet to come. Inspector Ferreira called Beatriz with information that made her smile for the first time in weeks. Beatriz, you won't believe what I found out about this Artur Guzmo. He has a history of 3 racial discrimination lawsuits in the last 5 years, all settled out of court with a non-disclosure agreement. And there's more you can bet his company is being. The IRS is investigating him for his tax evasion. And by the looks of it, he's about to lose everything. His wife is asking for a divorce and half of his assets. The guy is desperate. Beatriz processed the information carefully. Artur Guzmo was not just a prejudiced man, he was a prejudiced and desperate man with a history of discriminatory behavior. Exactly the kind of person who needed a public lesson. Inspector Ferreira, I need one more favor. Do you still have contacts in the investigative press? Yes, I do. Why? Because a story is about to be told, and this time it will be told correctly. When Arthur was finally alone in his apartment after the police had left, he looked at the watch he had recovered. For a moment he considered calling the cleaning company and apologizing, but his wounded pride got the better of him. She may have proven that she didn't steal the watch, he muttered to himself, but she's still just a cleaning lady. What harm can she do to me? That question would be answered very soon, because while Arthur was completely underestimating the woman he had humiliated, Beatriz was 3 steps ahead, orchestrating a life lesson that would make Arthur rethink every prejudiced choice he had ever made. What? Arthur could not imagine was that his arrogant question, what harm can a cleaning lady do to me, was about to become the greatest irony of his privileged life. Arthur spent the afternoon trying to control the damage, like a captain trying to plug holes in the Titanic. His wife was not answering the phone. His lawyer had mysteriously disappeared, and 3 major clients had canceled contracts after receiving worrying information about his professional conduct. At 5 p.m., his phone rang with an unknown number. Mr. Guzmo, this is Renata Franco from Channel 8 Investiga. We are preparing a story about discrimination in the workplace and would very much like to hear your version of some very serious allegations. What? Allegations? Arthur felt a cold sweat run down his back. We have documentation of 3 cases of racial discrimination in the last 5 years, all resolved with settlement agreements, very generous confidentiality. And today we received an extremely detailed account of an incident involving an Afro-Jamaican employee. Arthur hung up on the reporter, but the phone rang again immediately. This time it was Marcelo, his senior partner. His voice was panicked. Arthur, what the hell is going on? The press is calling the office, asking about discrimination lawsuits. I got a strange call from someone saying you have a systematic pattern of problematic behavior with black employees. While Arthur tried to explain the inexplicable, Beatrice was comfortably seated in a fancy cafe 3 blocks away, talking to Inspector Ferreira and an imposing woman. Beatrice, this is Dr. Helena Barroso, one of the most respected civil rights lawyers in the country. She personally represented the 3 employees who previously sued Guzmio. Dr. Barroso spread an impressively thick file on her desk. Senrita Almeida, your situation is virtually identical to the other women, black employees. Completely false accusations, blatant attempts to intimidation and public humiliation. The crucial difference is that you documented absolutely everything in real time. What do you mean? Your phone was recording the entire incident today. Did you plan this? The lawyer asked with professional curiosity. Beatrice smiled for the first time in weeks. Let's just say that years working as a private investigator in Jamaica have taught me to always be prepared, especially when I start to notice extremely suspicious patterns of behavior. Inspector Ferreira Rio was amazed. Did you plan this from the beginning? No, exactly from the beginning. But when I started working for elite families, I quickly realized that I needed to protect myself from situations like this. I research all my clients thoroughly before accepting any work. When I saw Mr. Guzmo's troubled history, I set my phone to automatically record whenever I'm working on his property. Dr. Barroso pulled out another document from the file, and there's more. The security footage from the building clearly shows that he blatantly lied to the police about several crucial details of the incident. We have him in flagrante delicto for false reporting of a crime. At that very moment, Arthur was facing the worst professional nightmare of his life, privileged life. The company's board of directors had called an emergency meeting after receiving a devastatingly comprehensive dossier on its history of discrimination. Arthur, Laura Mendez, the board chair, said in an icy voice, "We have received extremely disturbing documentation, not only about past employment lawsuits, but about an incident that happened today that was completely recorded. This is total nonsense. You falsely accuse an employee of theft based solely on the fact that she is black." Another board member interjected, and this entire conversation was recorded without your knowledge. 37 minutes of crystal clear audio. Arthur felt the world crash down around him as Laura slid a tablet across the table. On the screen, his own voice was unmistakably clear. People like you always think they can get away with. Hard-working people like you, and then I've known people like you forever. This is completely out of context. Is it really? Laura continued, playing the recording, because we have the entire conversation, including you, saying verbatim that you're going to warn other bosses about people like her. Arthur's cell phone vibrated with a notification that made his blood run cold. Channel 8 investigates on Twitter. In moments, elite executive has history of systematic discrimination exposed by employee who documented everything. Special report at 7 p.m. Close the tablet with a dry click. The council decided unanimously, you are suspended indefinitely, and we strongly recommend that you seek legal advice immediately. At 7 p.m., Arthur was alone in his penthouse, watching his life being methodically torn apart on national television. Reporter Renata Franco was live. A new case shocks the community, while exclusive recordings reveal the systematically discriminatory behavior of Arthur Guzmo, self-executive of one of the largest investment firms in the city. The full audio was played. In full, every prejudiced word, every false accusation, every attempt at intimidation was exposed to the entire city to hear. Arthur's phone exploded with notifications, clients canceling contracts, acquaintances expressing deep concern, his social and professional life disintegrating in real time. The coup de grace came at 9 p.m. when Letitia finally called from Punta de Leste. Arthur, I'm watching the news here at the hotel. My lawyer says this drastically complicates our separation. Letitia, please listen. No, Arthur. For years I swallowed your jokes about employees, your comments about certain people. I thought it was just immaturity, but this reveals exactly who you really are. You can't abandon me now. The divorce settlement has changed completely. My lawyer wants 50% of absolutely everything, including his share of the company. After all, who would want to do business with a man who appears on national television talking like this about black female employees? While Arthur was facing the total collapse of his privileged existence, Beatrice was peacefully at home preparing dinner. Inspector Ferreira called with a final report that made her smile with genuine satisfaction. The Federal Office of Civil Rights is opening a formal investigation into his company. The IRS accelerated the tax audit after the public exposure, and Dr. Barroso managed to reopen the cases of the other three women. His phone rang again. Beatriz Almeida, this is Davi Chavez from Virtus Corporate Security. We are an internationally renowned corporate security firm. We saw your story in the news and would love to speak with you about a position as a senior investigator with a starting salary of $80 million per year. Arthur Guzmo had discovered in the most humiliating way possible that underestimating someone based on prejudice not only revealed his own rotten character, but created the perfect scenario for his complete destruction. When you deliberately choose to humiliate a person who has all the tools he needs to defend himself, you are not only committing an injustice, you are handing him all the weapons he needs to completely rewrite his story and reduce his arrogance to dust. 6 months later, Beatriz Almeida sat in her office on the Vismacero floor of Virtus Corporate Security, supervising a team of 12 investigators. The panoramic view of the city stretched out through the glass windows, a stark contrast to the apartments he used to clean. Miss Almeida, her Assistant announced over the intercom. Reporter Renata Franco is here for the interview about the Civil Rights Defender of the Year award. Public recognition came as a surprise. Her courage in documenting and exposing Artur's discriminatory behavior inspired other victims to come forward, creating a wave of change in the city's labor policies. Beatriz Renata smiled as she entered. How does it feel knowing that your story changed the law on protective recordings for domestic workers? Pleased, but not surprised. The truth always finds a way to the surface, especially when you give it a little help. Beatriz responded with a confident smile that had become her trademark. His investigation firm had grown exponentially. Customers came specifically, looking for the woman who took down Guzmo. 3 major corporations hired her for internal discrimination audits, paying her fees that were 10 times her former salary as a janitor. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Arthur Guzmo was pushing a shopping cart through a neighborhood supermarket. His fall had been brutal and complete. The company had fired him permanently. Letitia had taken half of his assets in the divorce, and no reputable firm would hire him after his national exposure. The coverage had been sold to pay legal bills